My name is Hussein Rahman, and for most of my life, I believed I had everything figured out. My faith, my purpose, my identity, it all felt solid. Growing up in Dearborn, Michigan, I was surrounded by tradition. My family followed Islam with deep devotion, and so did I. 5 daily prayers, fasting during Ramadan, reading the Quran, I did it all without question. Christianity was a distant concept, and Jesus? Just a prophet. Nothing more. I never doubted what I had been taught. Until the day everything changed. It was an ordinary October afternoon. I left work, climbed into my old sedan, and joined the usual rush hour traffic. My mind drifted to weekend plans and unfinished errands. The city's hum was familiar. Honking horns, flashing lights, people rushing everywhere. Everything was normal. Until it wasn't. The black SUV came out of nowhere. I didn't even have time to react. The collision was like an explosion. Metal shrieking, glass shattering, the airbag slamming into my chest. The world flipped. And then came the silence. I opened my eyes to a distorted world. My car was crumpled. Smoke and the sharp scent of gasoline filled the air. I tried to move, to breathe, but something felt wrong. Then I saw it. My body was slumped over the steering wheel. Blood trickled down my forehead. My chest didn't move. My eyes stared lifelessly ahead. Panic surged through me. I tried to scream, to reach out, but my hand passed through the dashboard like mist. I wasn't in my body anymore. I was standing beside the wreckage, weightless, invisible. People rushed over. A woman dropped to her knees, pressing on my chest, yelling for help. Sirens blared in the distance. I wanted to stay, to tell them I was still here. But then it came, a force pulling at me. It started as a soft tug deep within, then grew stronger. I resisted, desperate to hold on to the familiar world. But the pull was relentless. Darkness surrounded me. It wasn't empty. It was alive, thick and oppressive, whispering in a language I didn't understand but instinctively feared. I tried to move, to fight it, but the force dragged me deeper. I had always believed that after death, angels would come to question me. That I'd find paradise if my faith was strong. But there were no angels here. Only darkness. And then, in that suffocating void, I felt it, a presence approaching. Before we continue, we'd love to hear from you. Comment your name and city below, and in our next video, we'll give a special shout-out to some of you. Imagine thousands of people hearing your name. It's your moment to shine and feel part of this amazing community. And if this story moves you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps us share these life-changing testimonies with more people around the world. Stay with me, there's so much more to come. You're ready for Chapter 2. The pull became impossible to resist. I was being dragged through a tunnel of complete darkness, vast, endless, and suffocating. There was no ground beneath me, no sky above. Just this relentless force pulling me deeper into something I couldn't comprehend. The darkness wasn't silent. It whispered. Voices, faint at first, like a distant breeze rustling through dead leaves. But as I moved further, the whispers grew louder. They weren't in any language I knew, yet somehow their meaning reached me. You're alone. You're forgotten. No one will hear you. Panic gripped me. I tried to scream, but my voice vanished into the void. My arms flailed, reaching for something solid, something familiar. But there was nothing. The air thickened. It felt heavy, pressing against me like unseen hands. The whispers turned into cries, agonized, hopeless cries that seemed to come from everywhere. I tried to turn away from the sound, but there was no direction here. Just endless, suffocating despair. Then, in the distance, I saw them. Shapes. Human figures, barely visible in the darkness. As I drifted closer, their faces became clearer, twisted with anguish, eyes hollow and lifeless. They reached out with skeletal hands, their mouths opening in silent screams. I recoiled. One of them locked eyes with me. There was recognition in that gaze, a pleading desperation. Their lips moved, whispering through the silence. Help me. I wanted to help. But what could I do? I was as powerless as they were. Then came the realization. I was one of them. I was no longer part of the world I knew. The people I loved, the life I cherished, it was all gone. I had stepped beyond the boundary of life, into a realm where time and identity no longer mattered. The tunnel narrowed. The pull intensified, dragging me faster. The cries around me grew more frantic, blending into a single, deafening wail. I was no longer descending. I was being hurled downward. Terror consumed me. My mind screamed for the life I'd left behind. For the safety of my home, the familiar sounds of the mosque, the warmth of my mother's voice. But none of it could reach me here. And then, just when I thought I would be swallowed entirely by the darkness, something changed. A distant glow appeared ahead. Faint, like the first hint of dawn on a horizon. The darkness recoiled from it, pulling back as if wounded by its presence. The light grew stronger, warmer. It didn't just illuminate the tunnel. It seemed to breathe, to radiate a presence beyond mere brightness. The cries faded. The oppressive weight lifted. I felt peace, unlike anything I had ever known. The light was drawing me in, not with force but with a quiet, irresistible invitation. And in that light, I saw him. The light wasn't just bright, it was alive. It pulsed like a heartbeat, radiating warmth that wrapped around me, soothing the fear that had gripped me moments before. I was no longer falling. The force pulling me downward had vanished, replaced by a gentle, steady pull toward the light. As I moved closer, the light took form. It wasn't abstract or shapeless. There was a figure standing within it, tall, radiant, beyond anything I could comprehend. The intensity of the presence made me instinctively lower my gaze, like a child standing before a king. And then he spoke. Hussein. My name echoed through me. It wasn't just sound, it was a voice that resonated through every part of my being. There was no doubt who it was. I had never believed in him as more than a prophet. But now, standing here, I knew. It was Jesus. Not the Jesus of distant stories or Sunday school pictures, but the living, breathing presence of pure authority and compassion. His voice carried power and peace in equal measure. You have been deceived, he said. The words pierced me. I opened my mouth to deny it, to say that I followed the truth, that I had lived my life devoted to God. But I couldn't speak, because deep down, I already knew he was right. Jesus raised his hand, and suddenly, I saw my life unfold before me. Not just moments or memories, but the hidden threads of my beliefs. I saw the times I had prayed with an empty heart, the moments when I had judged others, believing myself righteous because of my outward devotion. I saw the fear that had kept me from ever questioning what I had been taught. Tears filled my eyes. The truth was undeniable. My faith had been built on tradition, not on truth. Then Jesus showed me something even more profound. The light shifted, and I saw a vast multitude of people, faces from across the world, walking toward a massive gate. They moved with confidence, certain of their path. But as they reached the gate, I saw their expressions shift to confusion. The gate was closed, and beyond it, there was nothing but darkness. They believe they are on the right path, Jesus said. But they do not know me. And without me, there is no life. The scene faded. Jesus stood before me again, his eyes filled with sadness. You must go back, he said. Tell them what you have seen. Time is running out. Panic shot through me. Go back? To what? To the life I had left behind? How could I? I didn't belong there anymore. Please, I begged. Let me stay here with you." Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder. The warmth of his touch filled me with indescribable peace, yet I could feel myself being pulled away. The light began to dim. The warmth faded. "No," I whispered, reaching for him. But it was too late. The next thing I knew, I was gasping for air, my body arching off the hospital bed, monitors beeping frantically as nurses rushed into the room. I was back. But nothing would ever be the same again. The sterile brightness of the hospital room felt like an assault after the warmth of the light. My chest heaved as I tried to breathe, the lingering sense of peace colliding with the sharp reality of being back in my broken, fragile body. My mother was there, clutching my hand, tears streaking down her cheeks. My father stood at the foot of the bed, his face frozen in shock. Doctors swarmed around me, checking my pulse, adjusting the machines. I heard them whisper words like impossible and miracle. I didn't care. My mind was still there, with him. With Jesus. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry, raw from the breathing tube. My mother pressed a cup of water to my lips. The cool liquid soothed the burning, and I swallowed hard before finding my voice. "I saw him," I rasped. Her brow furrowed. "Who, Habibi? Who did you see?" "Jesus." The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. My mother's face paled. My father's jaw clenched. The warmth of their relief vanished, replaced by confusion and fear. "You were dreaming," my father said, his voice sharp. "The accident, the trauma, it plays tricks on the mind." "No." I shook my head, tears filling my eyes. "I saw him. I spoke with him. He showed me everything." My father stepped forward, his hands trembling at his sides. "Stop this nonsense. Jesus is just a prophet. You know that." I wanted to argue, to explain what I had seen. But how could I make them understand when I barely understood it myself? Days passed in a blur of medical tests and uncomfortable conversations. My family avoided talking about what I had said, hoping, perhaps, that I would forget. But I couldn't. The vision haunted me every time I closed my eyes. I tried to ignore it, tried to slip back into the familiar rhythm of my old beliefs. But everything had changed. The prayers I had once recited with such confidence now felt empty. The mosque, which had always been a place of comfort, now felt suffocating. One night, as I lay awake in the hospital bed, I heard it again. That voice. Not from the outside, but from deep within me. "Tell them." My heart raced. I knew what it meant. Jesus had shown me the truth, not just for myself, but for others. For all those who, like me, had been walking toward a closed gate, unaware of what awaited them. I closed my eyes, gripping the bed sheets with trembling hands. "How?" I whispered. "How do I tell them?" The answer came not in words, but in a surge of certainty that filled my chest. I didn't need to have all the answers. I just needed to speak the truth. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling, the weight of my mission settling onto my shoulders. I didn't know what would come next, but I knew I couldn't stay silent. Folded hands, if this story has touched you, take a moment to comment Amen below. Your comment isn't just a word, it's a prayer, a declaration of faith. Like the video and join thousands of others standing in faith. Together, we are part of something bigger, a community of people seeking truth and hope. Stay with me, there's so much more ahead. The days after I left the hospital were like stepping into a different world. Everything around me looked the same. Familiar streets, familiar faces, but I was no longer the same person. I walked through the city in a haze, feeling like a stranger in my own life. The memory of what I had seen, the darkness, the light, the voice of Jesus, clung to me like a second skin. I tried to act normal. I went through the motions of daily life, but nothing fit anymore. The prayers I had known since childhood felt hollow. The Quranic verses I once recited with confidence now left me unsettled. My mind returned again and again to the words Jesus had spoken. Tell them, time is running out. But how? How could I explain something so vast, so incomprehensible? Who would believe me? The first time I shared my experience was with my closest friend, Yusuf. We sat in his living room, sipping coffee while the muted hum of the TV played in the background. My palms were slick with sweat as I tried to find the words. I died, I said finally. He blinked, then laughed softly. Yeah, man. The crash. We were all terrified. No, Yusuf. I died. I left my body. And I saw Jesus. The laughter stopped. He set his coffee cup down and leaned forward, his face tight with confusion. What are you saying, Hussein? I told him everything. The tunnel, the darkness, the figures trapped in despair. The light. Jesus' presence. The truth I had been shown. When I finished, Yusuf stood abruptly. His eyes were cold. You need to stop talking like this, he said, voice low. You're walking into dangerous territory. I reached for his arm. Yusuf, listen. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. Jesus is more than a prophet. He's the way. The only way. His jaw tightened. If you say that to anyone else, you're going to regret it. I sat in silence after he left, my heart heavy. Fear whispered in my ear, stop. Stay silent. Stay safe. But I couldn't. The next week, I gathered the courage to tell my family. We sat at the dinner table. My mother serving tea, my father reading the news on his phone, my brother scrolling through social media. I cleared my throat. I need to talk to you. They looked up. I had a near-death experience. And I saw Jesus. The silence was instant and suffocating. My mother's eyes filled with tears. My brother shifted uncomfortably. My father's face turned red. Stop, he said. But, Baba, I need you to hear me. Jesus showed me the truth. I saw. I said stop. He slammed his hand on the table, making the teacups rattle. You will not speak that name in this house again. But it's the truth. I stood, voice cracking. He showed me everything. Islam, it's not what we thought. Jesus is the Son of God. My father's face contorted with rage. Get out. My mother cried as I packed a small bag. My brother didn't look at me. My father stood by the door, arms crossed. You're dead to us, he said as I stepped outside. The door shut behind me with a finality that echoed in my chest. I walked into the night with nowhere to go, nothing but the memory of Jesus' command to keep me company. Tell them. Time is running out. The mission had begun. The cold air stung my face as I walked away from my family's home that night. My father's last words echoed in my mind, You're dead to us. I had always known our faith was the foundation of our family, but I never imagined it would become the wall that separated us. Tears blurred my vision as I wandered the streets. I had nowhere to go. My phone buzzed repeatedly. Messages from relatives, friends, even neighbors who had heard what happened. Most were warnings. Some were threats. All of them told me the same thing. Stay quiet. But I couldn't. The weight of Jesus' words pressed on my heart. Tell them. Time is running out. I spent the night in a motel on the edge of town, my thoughts racing. The image of the tunnel, the lost souls trapped in eternal regret, haunted me. I couldn't erase the memory of their hopeless eyes, their desperate whispers for help. I knew, without a doubt, that if I stayed silent, more souls would be lost. The next morning, I sat at the small wooden desk in the motel room and opened my laptop. My hands hovered over the keyboard, trembling. I wasn't sure how to begin. How do you tell the world something so overwhelming? Finally, I typed the first words. My name is Hussein, and I died. What I saw on the other side changed everything. I wrote without stopping, pouring every detail onto the screen. The darkness, the cries, the overwhelming peace of the light. The moment I stood before Jesus and saw the truth. I described the book of life, the names fading with each step away from him, and the command he gave me. When I finished, I uploaded the video and closed the laptop. My heart pounded as I stared at the blank motel walls. Would anyone even believe me? Hours passed. I paced the room, my mind spiraling through doubts. Then, just before midnight, my phone vibrated. A notification. Then another. And another. By morning, the video had thousands of views. The comments flooded in. I've never heard anything like this before. This gave me chills. I've always felt there was more. How do I know if Jesus is real? But there were others, too. Liar. Jesus isn't God. Traitor. You've turned your back on your people. Watch your back. The fear was real. But so was the mission. More videos followed. I shared everything. My upbringing, my accident, the vision of Jesus, and the revelation that changed my life. People from all over the world began reaching out. Some were curious, some skeptical. But many were desperate. A woman from Texas messaged me one night. Her son had died in a car accident, and she'd been consumed by grief. After watching my testimony, she told me she had felt peace for the first time in months. Another man from New York, raised in a strict religious household like mine, confessed that he'd always been afraid to question his beliefs. My story, he said, gave him the courage to seek the truth for himself. The mission was spreading. But with every step forward, the darkness fought back. One night, as I was recording a new video, the power in my apartment went out. My phone lit up with a single text message, "You should stop." Another time, while walking home from a prayer meeting, a car slowed beside me. The driver rolled down the window and whispered, "You're a disgrace." Then he sped off. Fear tried to paralyze me. But each time, I remembered the light. I remembered Jesus standing in the brilliance of that unearthly glow. His eyes filled with both sorrow and love as he told me to go back and tell the truth. I knew what was at stake. And I wasn't alone anymore. Others like me, people who had seen the truth beyond this life, began reaching out. We formed a small, tight-knit group, supporting each other in prayer and purpose. The mission was growing, and the darkness was losing ground. The battle had begun. Thank you for being part of this journey. We don't do this for fame or money. We do it because we believe these messages can change lives. If you feel the same, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us reach more people with these powerful testimonies. And when you join us, you're not just watching. You're becoming part of a growing, faith-filled community united by a search for truth and hope. Thank you for walking with us. Stay tuned, there's more to come. The threats didn't stop. Neither did the doubts. But the mission burned within me. I no longer lived in fear. I remembered the vision of the book of life, the names fading, the souls crying out from the darkness. I knew why I had been sent back. It wasn't to live a comfortable life, it was to share the truth I had seen with my own eyes. I traveled to small gatherings, spoke in churches, and connected with people online who were searching for something greater. Each time I told my story, the same transformation happened. Disbelief turned to curiosity, and curiosity turned to hope. The hardest moment came when I saw my mother in the grocery store one afternoon. Her eyes met mine, filled with pain and love. I smiled and whispered, "Jesus loves you." Tears slipped down her cheeks as she turned away. I pray for her every day. Jesus showed me that time is short. I don't know when the door will close, but I know it's coming. I saw it, and that's why I speak. That's why I won't stop. The battle isn't just mine. It's ours. Before you go, there's something important waiting for you. There's another video that could open your heart to even deeper truths. Just click on the video appearing on your screen. And remember, like and subscribe to join our growing community. We don't do this for profit. We do it because we believe in the power of these testimonies to change lives. Thank you for walking with us. See you in the next video.